Hello everybody, Andy here from Glass Half Dead, the #1 kill team channel on the internet, unless you are aware of any other kill team channel. So it's here. It's here. It's the big, it's the first, maybe the only, who knows with the way the world's going, balance update for kill team. First things first, has your team been touched? Maybe, dunno. Because you know what, there's only 26, I just counted it, 22 actual team changes in a game of 36 factions. So they haven't touched everything. Of course, not everything needed to be touched. So, you know, hey, that's it. Now, let's just dive straight into this because that's still a heck of a lot of words I'm going to have to read out to you. Yeah, let's just crack on. Hey, can I shrink myself? They say nobody puts baby in a corner. Well, I'm in the corner. I guess I'm not a baby. There you go. Before we dive in, I would like to just quickly say, hey, thanks for watching. There you go. Okay. I don't know if I was going to do a sponsor segment there. I was just talking. Very quickly how this works. Okay, so I got all of these from the app, and so not from the PDFs online. And so I was very confused. There is no overarching every single change that has been made in this update. Because in fact, what they're doing is, let me show you on the next page, it will make more sense. So every faction or core rule has its own version control. So basically, in the core rules, if you recall, they did make some changes last time. That means that was update 1.0. Now we're getting a few more updates. That makes this core rules update log version 1.1. But when we get to something that hasn't been changed before, you see Blades of Khaine has 1.0, 1.1. One of them doesn't. I've got to find it. Here we go, Deathcore. They're on update 1.0. The reason for that is because they didn't get updated before. But so Deathcore is on version 1.0, other things are on 1.1. Very clearly, they should just title everything, whatever, it's fine, it's cool, doesn't matter. It just made things difficult for me to look through. Right, so I'm not going to be reading update 1.0s because those were very basic things. They were like, very clear, errata, we made a typo, we accidentally gave you too many models, you know, these kinds of things. Oh, and unifying super conceal. We've got some interesting things. Very quickly, I'm going to just throw it out there. I think the highlight here is how they've decided to change the top teams, the S tier. We're thinking of Warpcoven, Legionary, Inquisition, etc. We get to it when we get to it, but I would say, just a little preview for Warpcoven, which, because I'm going alphabetically, is the final faction. They've taken away the 2-up armor save, they've made it a 3-up on the rubrics, and they've also changed Ignore Piercing to weapons that have Piercing 1, have Piercing Crits 1. I think that's a nice change. My idea for it had been to make Ignore Piercing a once per turn thing. So you still play it in the strat phase, but you just choose which model, you know, enemy takes a shot, I choose to activate my strat ploy now, almost like it was a piece of equipment. They went with Piercing Crits 1. Probably better. Cool. All right, let's get into the core. So keep in mind, sorry, I am colorblind. So the difference between blue and magenta isn't super obvious to me, but there you go. I will do my best. So the core rules, of course, affect everybody. Let's discuss. Key principles, data cards, operative stats. If an operative stats or its weapon stats are changed during an action, apply the change once the action has been completed. Note that changes to weapon rules are applied immediately. Great. So there is a reason for them having put this into the game. It came up at Worlds, I do recall. There's some ability where you do a thing and then I think it's Death Guard. You can like lower their stats or their hits or whatever in the middle of an action. So once you've performed the fight or whatever, and it's like, oh, well, do I take into account the stats as they were or the stats as they are? And it's telling you here, it's saying definitively, this is how it works. Great. Good clarification. We then have counteract change. Now this is going to be big. This is going to be something that affects all elite teams. So we want to see what they've done. First things first. You cannot perform the guard action as a counteract. This is good. There was no need for this to ever be a thing. Frankly, I consider this an errata instead of a balance change. It was obviously having a huge effect on balance on Into the Dark, but That's almost what I view it as. They just forgot that guard can happen. We then get that operative cannot move more than 2 inches or must be set up wholly within 2 if it's removed and set up again. I have to assume this was some Warpcoven shenanigans. I don't know who else could have been messing around. Maybe Death Guard, I don't really know them too well. But again, I have to imagine what happened here is somebody argued, well, I'm not moving, I'm being placed, and therefore I can move my full reposition action, my full move. They've said no, obviously not. So again, really, with Counteract, I genuinely feel that is just some minor erratas, which will have a big effect, but they're just saying, no, come on, guys, obviously, right? I can just imagine all the playtest team and the devs like, why are they playing it this way? Cool, all right. So, close quarters, they've just added, it performs any action, moves, or setup. So this is how you break the guard action. Again, I don't know. I thought you couldn't move or set up. I don't know why they've had that. It performs any action. Oh, so you could teleport somebody whilst they were guarded, and presumably this only took effect in an activation. Total guess here. So, for example, hypothetically, maybe the Rattlings could guard and then Scarper, something like that. So it makes sense. We then get a really, really long paragraph. I'm going to sum it up for you because I've already read it. If we look at H down here, H, this is obviously the second floor of Vulcus Vantage. What they're saying here is, hey, guys, you cannot charge block. They've worded it very interestingly, but what they're saying is that you can always fit 2 bases on here, but it can only ever be 1 friendly. You can always be charged. There you go. If I'm honest, I still don't like. I think that's good. You should never be able to charge block up there, obviously. And they're just saying that no matter what, this overrides every rule. Even if your base can't actually fit there, you can charge. Cool. And we then get, so again, we go over to the second bit here. We see some 1.0s. We ignore them. We ignore them. Just to 1.1. How does guard action work when the operative must spend an additional AP to perform 2 shoot actions with the same weapon? The operative can perform the guard action for 1 AP as normal, but it performs the shoot action during the interrupt. But if it performs the shoot action during the interrupt, you cannot select the relevant weapon unless it had the AP remaining to do so during its activation. Oh, so that's an interesting change. I probably would have just preferred them to say, no, you can't do it. But fine. Either way, you have to do a little bit of remembering here, a little bit of guesswork to do that. So you've performed the guard action, which, okay, cool, fine. Man, I'm really bored of Into the Dark, so I'm just going to move on. You get it. You've seen it. Okay, we now have the Blades of Khaine, which apparently are no longer the Blades of Lame. We've got to change that. So, Dire Avenger, Exarch, so balanced weapon rule. This used to be you get accurate 1. I prefer balance. Balance is better because your team relies on rending. You want to be rolling that crit, 100%. And although that doesn't stack with their reroll shooting, so when you play their ploy Khaine's Vengeance, that is when an enemy operative is expended, you get Ceaseless. Balance doesn't stack with Ceaseless, you don't get an extra reroll, you can never reroll a reroll, etc, etc. However, this does mean that if you're shooting a ready operative, you will have balanced if they're on a point or if you're on a point. Nice. This makes sense. Brew Brothers. Now, Brew Brothers are a team I'm interested in, yet I know very little about. Yeah, there you go. So, notice they do have the 1.0. We're ignoring that because that happened 3 months ago. We're going to the 1.1. If my operative isn't injured at the start of the action and then is incapacitated, when rolling a d6 for the Cult Devotion strat ploy, do I worsen the hit stat of the weapon by 1 as a result of being injured? No, as an operative stat, don't change during an action. This is just clarifying the thing that they just said. Logically, I suspect they don't need to put the rules commentary because they just made that core change, but it's still good to do. Love it. Now, you might be wondering, what does Cult Devotion do? I don't know. There you go, because I don't know the team. Right, Chaos Cult. So Chaos Cult not performing well. Let's be honest, not performing well. Let's see what they're doing now. So mutation. If it's a mutant operative, turn it into a torment operative, max twice. Oh. So that used to be, that's a nerf. It used to be 3, unless I've misunderstood. So I believe that with Chaos Cult, it used to be you could always mutate 3 a turn. Unless it was you can mutate 3 devotees into mutants, but then you could only ever turn 1 mutant into 1 torment, and this is actually a buff to go from, yeah. I think that might be a nerf. Anyway, let's read the next thing. Fervent Onslaught. Friendly Chaos Cult operatives melee weapons have the accurate 1 weapon rule. Oh, okay. Or the accurate 2 weapon rule if that friendly operative is mutant or automaton. Okay, cool. Seems nice. One of the big downsides to Chaos Cults is, like, even your torments are hitting on 4s. It's great that you have 5 dice, but you're still not actually, like, super killy because you're hitting on those 4s. Now you'll be retaining 2 and then rolling 3, 50-50. Not bad. They probably need the help, let's be honest. Cool, we have the Death Corps. The Death Corps, we know they're not doing well. What changes have they done? They've changed Balanced to Ceaseless for Take Aim and Fixed Bayonets. And then Dig In, any of the defense dice results of 1 result, e.g. Oh, okay. And then they've given you Ceaseless instead of Balanced again. So I really do wish... The thing is, they quite often give Ceaseless in defense. That seems to come up in quite a few teams, but they have not chosen to make it a core rule, so they just have to say it every time. It's very awkwardly worded, but you could just sum that up as Ceaseless defense. There you go. Strat Ploy, Siege Warfare. Friendly Death Corps operatives ranged weapons have the Saturate and Accurate 1 weapons rules. I have to guess that Accurate 1 is just straight up an addition, and before they just had Saturate. That's actually really nice. On a team that's hitting on 4s, Accurate 1, really nice. As we know from Vespid, it's actually very good. You're not a team that needs to be fishing for crits, so Accurate 1's nice. Firefight Ploys. In Death Atonement, note that that friendly operative is injured for the duration of that action. A good clarification. Because what happens here is you've died, right? So you're at 0 HP. So the question becomes, well, am I doing this like when you first shot me when I was at full health? Or am I doing it when I'm dead? And when I'm dead, I'm technically not injured because I'm dead. So what's happening? They're saying, yeah, you're injured. Which means you're hitting on 5, so sucks, never do. But maybe you have Accurate 1 now. Corsairs. Starstorm Duelist. This operative cannot perform this action while it has a conceal order or during activation which perform the shoot action or vice versa. So I just looked at this, and it used to just not have that thing at the end at all. And it was just, you can't do it while on a conceal. Now you just can't do it. So you, in theory, you could shoot, and then you could pistol barrage, which essentially means you're ending up shooting like 3 times. Very clearly, that was not intentional, but there you go. It's possible that no, I think it did just say you can't do it on conceal, and then didn't have anything at the end. I know that it might have been the Starstorm Duelist that had the, this does not count for the purposes of action restrictions, which is awesome, but the worst way they could possibly word anything, unless you have in the core book a super, super, super tight definition of what you mean when you say action restrictions. Because, buddy, action restrictions is very vague, because everything in the game's an action, right? Like, yeah. So, be a bit more specific with that one. Good. Elucidian Starstriders, right, I know very little about the Elucidian Starstriders, I'm still going to read it though. This operative cannot perform this action while it has a conceal order. And then they've crossed out all while within control range of an enemy operative and replaced it with or during activation in which it performed the shoot action or vice versa. Okay, so if I knew what uncompromising fire action meant, maybe I'd be able to discuss it, but I don't. And then you get Ceaseless weapon rule instead. I think it used to be Balanced, and now you get Ceaseless instead. I don't know why they needed the word instead. Cool. Farstalkers. So apparently the Crude have taken a bit of a nerf. Let's see what's up. I know a little bit about the Crude. So, Strat Ploys Cutthroats. Add 1 to the attack stat of friendly Farstalker Kinband operatives melee weapons to a maximum of 5. So I'm actually not sure what the change is here, because I thought that was already just how it worked. Add 1 to the attack stat of friendly Farstalker Kinband operatives melee weapons. What was it before? Because I swear that's exactly what it was. I have to assume that whatever this was they've changed the whole sentence. Okay, cool. They changed the whole sentence. I don't know what it was before because that reads exactly how I remember cutthroats working. So I assume that's actually a minor errata as opposed to a different rule, and they've changed it how it works. Strat ploys prey. Its ranged weapons have the balanced and severe weapon rules. If the weapon already has the balanced weapon rule, it has the ceaseless and severe weapon rules instead. Okay, that seems good. So balance gets bumped up to ceaseless severe. Again, don't know what that was before. Seems good, seems a buff, I don't know. Kill broker operative, call the kill. Everybody gets balance. Nice. Again, don't know what that used to be. I feel like that would have been ceaseless and they've changed it to balance, but who knows. Until the end of the battle, that operative's weapons have the balanced weapon rule. Clearly they're changing a bunch of things to balanced. I don't know why. You cannot use the piercing shot and toxin shot rule during the same action. This is clearly a clarification to say, no, you obviously can't do that, which makes a lot of sense. I don't know who was trying to use both piercing and toxin at the same time. That's clearly not how it's meant to work. Nice. And then we get faction equipment trophy once per battle during a friendly Farstalker Kinband operative's activation, excluding Hound, before or after it performs an action. Man, I love it when they just add more words. Love it. Great. It's such a well written, easy to pass sentence. If it's not within control range of enemy operatives, you can use this rule. Obviously, I'm making fun of it there. I'm more making fun of people that needed this to be added, just to clarify. Why did we have to say during a friendly operative's activation? What did it say before? At some point during a friendly operative's action, probably? It's like, okay. Cool, that again seems like they're just clarifying things. Yeah. So I think what this might actually be, just off the top of my head, might be you used to be able to use it during the middle of an action instead of at some point during an activation, before or after performing an action. You could use it in the middle of an action, which probably messed with things. Nice. Fellgor Ravagers. So, again, we have some 1.0s, some 1.0s, but we want the 1.1. So, Shaman Operative, Mantle of Darkness. This gives everyone Super Conceal, I think, it used to. Whenever a friendly Fellgor Operative is visible to and within 3 inches of this operative. So we can assume, therefore, it didn't need to be visible, and it used to just be 3 inches. Nice. Gellerpox. Gellerpox not doing well, so they've had a bunch of, I'm going to assume, buffs. Let's find out, shall we? Oh man, I so don't care about Gellerpox. I'm reading it, but wish I didn't have to. Right, factual Techno Curse. At the end of the select operative step, select one Techno Curse for friendly Gellerpox infected operatives to gain for the battle. Whenever an enemy operative is within your selected Techno Curse's infection range, that enemy operative is affected by the symptom of the selected Techno Curse. I can't be bothered. I really don't care about Gellerpox. Okay, Hand of the Archon. It was there. You can go look at it yourself. I know I'm not going to add anything to it because I don't know that team at all. Right. So this one is obviously a good clarification for Hand of the Archon players. Ignore each strategic gambit from the mission pack, if any, when determining this. This was the thing where if you pass the first time you have the ability to pass in the strategic gambit step, you get an extra CP. They're saying ignore the things that you have to do for the mission pack. So the first time you have to play, there's I think 2 missions where you have to select a thing, which of course meant for Hand of the Archon, you just never got to use a faction rule there. Hernkyn Yaegir. Notice we didn't get any Hearthkin. Hearthkin perfectly balanced. So, Iron Break Operative Minefield Rule. 4th sentence, change to read. Each must be set up reverse side down, their specifics are not revealed. More than 2 inches from other markers, access points and accessible terrain. Bringing it in line with everything else. Good. Maybe this was already done. In fact, this must have already been done. So this was done last time because they're also bringing in line Super Conceal. Nice. So ignore what I've just said here. But it means Hernkyn haven't gotten another balance patch for 1.1. Nice. Hierotek. Guys, Hierotek are busted just as much as all other elites. So, and like in really bad ways. Most other elites, apart from Warpcoven, and a little bit Legionary, are just good themselves, and they beat you by being good. Hierotek Circle beat you by making you worse. And if I'm honest, much like Warpcoven and Legionary do sometimes, and it's just, that sucks. That's not fun. Let's see what they've changed. Reanimation Protocol, second bullet point, change to read, it has 1 wound remaining. So, this is, it's been a long time since I've known how Hierotek Circle work, but I assume they would have come back with 2, 3, or D3 wounds remaining. They said 1. So that is a nerf, for sure. Cool, cool, cool. So, we then have Magnify. Magnify is the thing where if you have visibility to from a Cryptek to an Apprentech, you can shoot using their visibility or their line of sight, and then you get rerolls if you do it. Now, they've changed that a little bit. You can use this rule. What would it... If you do... Okay. What did it say before? How is this any different? Okay. Determining a valid target, cover and obscured. Treat that operative as the active operative for the purposes of determining a valid target, cover and obscured. Okay, cool. So that's just a clarification that when you're drawing your line of sight from something else, it's not just valid target, but also you're using the targeting lines from that operative. Nice. Good to see. Because I assume that some people are saying, well, I've chosen valid target from here, but now I'm going to draw whether or not you have intervening cover and therefore get a cover save and obscured from this guy. So you're really managing to... So that's good. I like it. Chronomancer operative, counter-temporal nanomine. Whenever an enemy operative is within 4 inches of your counter-temporal nanomine marker, subtract 2 from its moveset. I assume this was 6 inches, which means you have a huge 13-inch bubble, essentially. Now it's only going to be 9. Still massive, but that's fine. It's okay, I guess. You gotta nerf a little before you can nerf a lot, right? We don't want to nerf things into the ground. We then get the Psychomancer. The Psychomancer is the guy that everybody's taking because he's just completely OP broken and in a way that feels terrible to play against. This is the guy they do need to nerf into the ground so that we never pick him again because he sucks. Right, let's see what he does. Whenever an enemy operative within 4 inches of this operative is shooting, fighting or retaliating, your opponent cannot reroll their attack dice and cannot retain attack dice results of less than 6 as critical successes, e.g. So I refer to these as alt crits, alternative crits, so lethal, rending, severe. Cool. And it's 4 inches. Again, I assume this used to be 6 inches, but something in my head sparked that this was so insane because it was 8 inches. And so you had like a 16-inch bubble, which is basically the whole board, where you could never reroll or retain crits. That's the other thing. So this used to be you can't retain crits, or no, you have to reroll a crit, I think. Now, at least you do get to retain a natural 6. Oof. This was mad. I don't know if they play tested that as a concept, if I'm honest. Clearly, because obviously, if they had, it wouldn't have made it into the game because it was so insane that you'd think you could just say, no, you can never have crits, right? In such a huge bubble. Cool, okay, makes sense. Nice, they've nerfed that. Like to see it. Like to see it. Hopefully now the Psychomancer is a little bit less oppressive. There are other teams that do turn off alt crits already. Obviously, Angels of Death have their once per turn jousting shield. It's not a jousting shield. That's what I call it though. It's not a joust, it's a tilting shield. Right, cool. Is it? I don't know. You're probably not jousting, yeah. So we then get the Technomancer. This guy's your healer, kind of. Let's see what he does. Support. 6 inches this operative regain up to 2d3 lost wounds. What was it before? 2d3 is the base. Maybe it was 2d3 plus 1 or plus 2 something. So now you've got your reanimation protocols putting you back on 1 wound. You might come back with this, using this guy's ability to only come back with 3 wounds, but that's the Canoptek repair action. Okay, well this is just a standard medic heal now. You're still going to get your, not reanimation protocols, but living metal, which don't know what that is anymore. Cool, that's fine. So, obviously, I don't know how oppressive this was. Again, I don't think many people do. I think everyone was just playing Psychomancer. However, keeping in mind that that is now a standard medic heal, I feel like, considering you're the Technomancer, you should have a better than standard medic ability, but you don't now, so that's fine. cool. And then we get the Tesla Weave. The Tesla Weave is your, if you charge, you take damage. Let's see what they've changed. Once per turning point, when an enemy operative ends the charge action with friendly Hierotek Circle operatives within its control range, you can use this rule. If you inflict, okay, D3 plus 1. So this is the same. The only thing they've changed is that if you charge multiple don't go off, which obviously makes sense. It's also possible that they've added once per turning point. I think it just used to be always, like just this was a thing. Now you have to choose who you want to use it against, which isn't actually going to affect too many things, but at least now you could, in theory, throw away, you know, a Deathcore dude, and then still have things that could charge again afterwards. Not that you're charging with Deathcore, right? But at least you're not guaranteed to kill a dude if you roll a 7-wound model, if they try to tie up your immortals, if you charge with multiple dudes. If you charge into multiple dudes. Then we get the update 1.0, which we don't care about. Nice. Hunter Clade. So Hunter Clade have needed a big buff. We assume, haven't read it yet, that the Doctrina Imperatives are going to do what they did last edition, which is you don't get the negative of the Doctrina for the first turn in which it's activated. Let's read. Doctrina Imperatives. At the end of the select operative step, select one Doctrina Imperative to be a primary mode for your kill team until the end of the battle. Note that selecting a primary mode doesn't automatically give you the effects of that. Okay. Doctrina Imperative for the battle. You must still select it as a strategic gambit as below. Oh, okay. Alright. Interesting. So basically it then adds, once per battle, when you select the Doctrina Imperative that's your kill team's primary mode, you can ignore its deprecation rule. Interesting. So it's not as good as it was. They've said you pick one, and then when you activate it, you don't get the negative for that turn. So let's say you've decided to go, your focus is on, you know, re-rolling your melee guys. You pick that as your primary, and then when you play it, turn 2, that's how the game works, you're going to play it turn 2, there's no question about that. For that turn 2, you won't get the negative to shooting. It's fine. It's a small buff. Will it be enough? Don't know, but cool, I guess. Bulwark Imperative Optimization changed to read, normal damage of 3 or more inflicts 1 less damage on friendly Hunter Clade operatives. I don't know what that was before, so that's great. That is a standard negative to like damage reduction, but if I had to guess off the top of my head, it probably said normal damage of 4 or more, which is then useless for your team because you're dead. We then get Firefight Ploy's Omnicise Imperative. Use this Firefight Ploy during a friendly Hunter Clade operative's activation. Alternatively, use it when an enemy operative is shooting a friendly Hunter Clade operative at the end of the roll attack dice step. Okay, so you've seen all of the dice, you've been shot, you've seen the dice, or sorry, you are shooting, right? Yes. Use it when an enemy operative is shooting, no. Okay, so you've been shot at the end of the roll attack dice step. Sorry. Use it when an enemy operative is shooting a friendly Hunter Clade operative at the end of the roll attack dice step. So I've been hit, I've taken damage. Inflict D3 plus 1 damage on that friendly operative. So kill me, okay, alright, kill your guy. Until the ready step of the next strat phase, that friendly operative has an additional rule determined. What? Okay, fine. The thing is, guys, girls, galesses, you're not Angels of Death. You're not a Marine. You cannot take D3 plus 1 damage to get a reroll. What? Okay. Cool. Moving on. Additional text added to the end of the third bullet point. Oh, maybe this is going to change what I just said and my confusion. If you use this ploy during a shoot action, this operative save stat is changed immediately. This takes precedence over the core rules. So they've shot me. Okay. And my save stat is changed. Okay, so clearly in Omnicise Imperative, additional things happen, which would give me plus to my shoot at the end of the roll attack. So they've rolled attack, I get to see what they've rolled. Clearly in this ploy, somewhere it says you get a better save, +1 to your save, something like that. Okay. Oh man. I really don't think you should ever be inflicting D3+1 damage to a friendly operative. And that's before you roll your defense dice. So you don't know if you save everything. Alright. Man, that's such a good buff, it's a nerf. No, well done, they've changed nothing, whilst adding a lot of words. Right, looking at the 1.1s. Now this is on the breaches. The breaches famously not doing well in this edition. Let's see what they've done. Strat ploys, brace for counterattack. Whenever an operative is shooting against, fighting against, or retaliating against a friendly Imperial Navy breach operative that's within your territory, or that hasn't performed the charge fallback, normal damage and crit damage of 3 or more inflicts 1 less damage on that enemy friendly operative. So again, because I know that the breaches are currently not doing well, I have to assume the 3 used to be 4, and they've lowered it to a 3. But there's part of me that thinks maybe it was a 2 and they've added it to 3. But you also now have to be within your territory, which I assume is a negative. Unless it said something like you have to be within 4 of your drop zone, but I can't imagine that. It used to just be, surely it used to just be an everywhere thing, whereas now it's more perhaps defensive, because you have to be in your territory. But they don't get quite a few changes to Sergeant at Arms Operative Command Breach. Whenever you would use the attack order or defense order strat ploy, if this operative is in the kill zone, it costs you 0 CP. Awesome, that's good. If I'm honest, I'd assumed that was how it worked. I thought that was the whole point of, maybe that was last edition, maybe this was one of the nerfs that have made them suck. Cool. You can either remove that marker and place it again, change the selected ploy to the other. You cannot do both, and you don't need to spend any CP to change the ploy. Okay. Sure, you know what? Because I don't know what this was changed to. This just reads like, I swear this is what it used to be. Because this just reads like how it's normally played. Nice. Good. Inquisitorial Agents. So, these are one of the big boys, okay? 1.0 already came, that was just them bringing everything in line. What have they changed now? 1.1. If your kill team, your kill team, team selection, your kill team, including any requisitioned operatives, cannot include more than 1 weapon with the piercing 2 weapon rule, and cannot include more than 3 weapons with the piercing X, so any sort of piercing, excluding piercing crits, weapon rule combined. So you now get, so this is obviously good because you used to just take so much. So your piercing 2 is basically only coming from your multi-melter on your servitor guy. I don't think there's any other piercing. Oh, melters, obviously. So you could get easy your multi-melter, full range melter basically, plus a melter. So you've got 2 piercing 2 weapons, and you could then go on to have 2 piercing 1 weapons as well, because you're always taking Kasrkin. They said, nah, cut that out. 1 piercing 2, which will be your melter, and then 2 piercing 1 weapons in addition to that. Nice, good change. Tome Skull Operative. They've just removed this whole thing, so I'm going to have to read it to see what they've removed. The first time this operative is incapacitated during the battle, you can set it back up within control range of a friendly interrogator operative in a location it can be placed, and select an Inquisitorial Tome rule for it to have. If you do that, Interrogator operative cannot itself have an Inquisitorial Tome rule for the rest of the battle, although it can continue to change that operative as normal. Yeah, so in general, when you kill a model, if it comes back to life, that's very difficult to deal with because it allows the enemy to keep a level of action advantage, activation advantage, and in this instance, you then get to keep your buff aura. Yeah, just removing that makes a lot of sense. Now when you kill it, it's dead. Good change, I like it. I don't know if it's actually going to affect the balance of the team, but that seems like a good change. Mystic Operative Scry. This operative can perform this action twice during its activation, but you must select different effects. If it does, they've stopped that. Cool, good, like it. Quest Keeper, hit stat change to 4. 100% the Quest Keeper would have been hitting on 3s with this big old power fist style weapon, so changing it to 4s is good. It's undoubtedly also brutal, probably, knowing Inquisition, is probably ceaseless as well, so good to see. Servo Skull, relevant part change to read once per battle. I assume that means that you have to decide, it probably used to read once per turn, but now it's saying no, you decide what faction tome, whatever inquisitorial tome it's going to have, and that's it. You can't swap between your agent and your servo skull to get the buff where you need. This guy has that, this guy has that. I'm guessing. Finally, we have faction equipment, armored bodysuits. So obviously people were crit saving very well with the tome skull. Cool, nice. Why wouldn't you? If they don't rule it out, of course you do that. That just makes sense. We then get the Kasrkin. So this is the update 1.0 because I think they haven't been updated before. So let's read it. So second and third sentences are just deleted. So this isn't a buff or nerf for Kasrkin. This is only the way that they interact with Inquisitorial Agents. If this operative is in an Inquisitorial Agent kill team, you can still use this rule. Why would they put that in? That was such a crazy thing for them to do. It's fine. They just straight up give the broken best team in the game the best comms rule as well. Come on. They knew that wasn't lasting. We know that was a playtester loves Inquisition above anything else, and they just wishlisted it and nobody checked their homework, right? Good. It doesn't matter. That's not even a nerf to Kasrkin. You're still going to take Kasrkin every time with Inquisition, 100%, because they're still the best option despite those nerfs. Nothing has changed for Inquisition. Cringe. Right, Legionary. Excellent. I'm really looking forward to Legionary because they're a faction I know a little bit. And we know they're quite broken at the moment. So this is interesting. Let's see what they've changed. So here we see, just as I said, they've done for Warpcoven, they've also done here. No longer can you just straight up ignore Piercing 1. Now, if you're hit with Piercing 1, the Piercing 1 weapon becomes Piercing Crits 1. So as long as you roll that crit, you're still getting that Piercing 1. That's really good to see. I like it. Also, it has no effect whatsoever on Piercing 2. Just throwing that out there. Quicksilver Speed. So this is the Slaanesh, your negatives to hit. Let's see what they say. Whenever a friendly Legionary operative that performed an action which it moved during this turning point is fighting or retaliating worse than the hit stab of the operatives. So this is really nice now. This means that you can get around a little bit of activation advantage here. So you wait for them to do the thing and then you get the fight. This is good. This means that they're only getting their -1 hit when they perform the fight action. I like this. This is quite similar, obviously, because I played a bit of Blades of Khaine recently, where you would only get your buffs if you do the fight action. Same thing here. I think this makes a lot of sense. Lowering their hit stat is still very good. So the fact that you've charged and fought, they're -1 hit, this is still a good thing. But they are now not unchargeable and unfightable, which frankly they used to be. Whenever an operative is Quicksilver Speed, it continues. Whenever an operative is shooting a friendly Legionary operative more than 6 from it that performed an action in which it moved during this turning point worse than the hit out of the enemy operative's weapons by 1. Interesting change. So, more than 6. I think logically, it should be the other way around. So, if you're within 6, more than 6 from it that performed an action in which it moved during this turning point worse than the hit stat. So if you're over 6, if you're doing a big plasma shot from the other side of the board, you are -1 hit. If you're up close, you're not -1 hit. I like that change. These seem like 2 good changes. This might even be too much for Slaanesh, but I think these are great changes, so it's not too much. Well done. Good job. I like those changes. It means the Slaanesh can still keep what they have. Nurgle still gets to ignore sometimes the Piercing 1. These seem like 2 solid changes, actually. Really nice. Doesn't mean I'm going to let my local game friend actually play Legionary, obviously. Obviously, but it's nice. Strap Ploys, Fickle Fates. That friendly operative's ranged weapons have the Ceaseless Weapon rule. Great. Don't know what that used to be. I assume this was you got Accurate 1 or you got Piercing Crits or something just absolutely ridiculous. Fickle Fates. This is the one where you got Severe, so you always got a crit? Can't remember. Firefight Ploys, Mutability and Change. If it's a Warrior operative, that operative's Mark of Chaos keyword cannot be changed during this turning point. See Infernal Pact additional rule. So obviously a big thing about the usefulness of the Legionary Warriors is that every turn, when you activate them, you can say, I want it to be a different mark. It could be Nurgle when you think you're going to be hit. It can be Slaanesh when you don't want to get hit at all. It can be whatever, right? It can be Khorne if you want that extra, etc., etc. So I don't know what they've changed here. Mutability and change, firefight ploy. If it's a warrior operative, that operative's mark of chaos keyword cannot be changed. I don't know what's happened. I assume what's happened here is the core rules on the warrior operative says when you activate this model, change its ploy. And then if you wanted, you could do that, activate your warrior, run up, do what you need to do, and then firefight ploy, mutability and change to change you to another mark of chaos again. And they're saying, no, you can't do that again. You have to pick the one you're stuck with. Seems fine. You know, everyone playtesting this stuff and all the top tier players are all saying, like, it's a problem. I'm sure this was a problem, so good to see. Chosen operative, Soul Gorge. So this is the guy that kills you and then heals for an outrageous amount. And you can never kill. There are teams that literally cannot kill this model. Just to throw it out there, let's see what they've changed. After this operative fights or retaliates, if it isn't incapacitated, but it incapacitated an enemy operative or inflicted critical damage, but it incapacitated an enemy operative or inflicted critical damage during that sequence, it regains up to D3 plus 1 wounds. Okay, cool. Right, sorry, it took me so long to figure out what it was saying. So you have to kill a model to get the buff. You can't just hit with a crit to heal. Okay. The thing is, this guy can hit you for 8 damage, so you will kill an operative. The only time you're not killing an operative is if you absolutely fluff a roll and you're into another elite team who parries you out. So this seems fine. This is practically an errata, not a balance change. So cool, cool. Anointed. If this operative has the Nurgle keyword, you cannot reduce the damage of an attack dice by more than 1. In other words, you cannot use both rules to reduce normal damage of 4 or more by 2. Nice, cool, good addition. I like it. Good clarification. Balefire Acolyte. Guys, so just before I read this, if you recall, and we're going to talk about this at Warpcoven as well, elites being able to heal is really not good. Okay, let's see what they've changed. If this operative, when you select this weapon, you can use this rule if you do at the start of the resolve and then nothing changes. You cannot use this weapon rule more than one. Okay. I'm quite curious why they've said if you select this weapon, you can use this rule. And they've changed you can. Okay, they've just reworded it, fine. But you just can't heal twice per turn with this particular thing. Of course, you can still have your chosen healing for D3 plus 1. Every kill he gets in melee. Fights or retaliates, yeah. So unkillable in melee, pretty much still. And then you get this, can still heal again. Cool, but you can't heal twice. Which is good, which is obviously good. Because you used to be able to get a kill with this weapon, this ability, Siphon Life. And then you could do it shooting, and your dagger has Siphon Life as well. So you could heal 1, you could heal 2, and then you could counteract. You could potentially heal 3 times. Now, you can only heal once, which is good. Clearly how it should have been all along. Good. Icon Bearer Operative. So this is the guy that gives you extra CP. Have they removed the CP? It doesn't make any sense that Legionary can get extra CP. In the ready step of each strat phase, if this operative controls an objective marker that isn't tainted, that objective marker is tainted for the battle and you gain 1 CP. Note that if any operative, including enemy operatives, has tainted an objective marker, you cannot taint that objective marker. Cool. I assume that somewhere it defines what a taint is. However, I'm just going to assume that this means that for this guy to get you a CP, it has to happen. You have to be controlling different objective markers each turn. That seems fine. I'm just gonna hope that it says somewhere that you can't taint an objective marker turn 1, right? Right? And therefore, you aren't getting extra CP turn 1, but only turn 2 and 3, which is when it matters. Yeah. We then get another change to the Warrior Operative, Infernal Pact. Once per battle, when a friendly Legionary Warrior Operative is activated, you use this rule. If you do, change that operative's Mark of Chaos keyword. Once per battle. Oh, okay, so this used to be every single turn. Now it's once per battle. Okay, that seems nice. Cool. That's cool. I like it. Okay, so that's quite a lot of changes for Legionary. None of them crazy and overwhelming. It feels like, just from an initial read, like they are just bringing things in line to what they should have been. Cool, I like it. See, it seems solid. It seems like they will still be a very strong team. Right, faction equipment, comms jammers. Whenever an enemy operative is within 3 inches of a friendly Nemesis Claw operative, this used to be 8 inches. This used to be you cannot positively modify an enemy operative's APL when you're within 8 inches. It's now 3 inches. Good. This legitimately meant that you could not plus APL models. It was ridiculous. So 3 inches makes much more sense. Cool. You have to make a conscious decision to go and block somebody's comms now, whereas before you just well, of course I'm charging you, so you just can't comms now. Novitiates, strat ploys, defenders of the faith. Whenever an operative is shooting against, fighting against, or retaliating against a friendly novitiate operative that contests an objective marker or one of your mission markers. Oh, yeah. In the resolve attack dice step of that sequence, you can halve the damage inflicted, rounding up and to a minimum of 2. Okay. On that friendly operative from 1 normal success. So half the damage on 1 dice to a minimum of 2. Okay. Presumably they could take you down to 1 before. It would just be rounding up. So if they did 1 damage, okay. Alright, fine. And only on normal successes, not all dice, not crits, good. In general, I think in Kill Team, you shouldn't turn off anything. You should never be able to block a crit in any way. I feel like the game is kind of designed around that. So yeah, cool, good to see. Whenever you spend faith points at the end of that action, the friendly operative you spent them on can regain up to D3 lost wounds. I think this used to be like 2D3. I think this used to be mad. Cool, good to see. Good to see it's a little bit more in line. Plague Marines. Shockingly, a team I know very little about. I've never played as or against them, so crazy. You cannot select the same psychic range weapons more than once per activation. Good, this seems to be something that they're trying to bring in line with everything, and they should. You should never be able to use the same psychic action twice in turn on anyone. It does feel that way. Hopefully they've made that changes elsewhere. This is something that LVO basically ruled as well. Good. Malignant Plague Caster Operative Putrescent Vitality action. This operative cannot perform this action while within control range of an enemy operative or more than once per turning point. Cool, so again, I know we had the exact same issue. What we're having here is big issues with the counteract and how that works now and how incredibly outrageously strong it is when you give a very killy, very durable team the ability to use its good abilities twice in a turn. It's just like, yeah, turns out that breaks the game. That's how far we are from breaking the game. Being able to use one attack twice in a turn breaks the game. So good that they brought it in line. I like it. Vital operative flail action if the D3 result is a 3. Oh. Roll separately for each. If it's an enemy operative, if the D3 result is a 3, that enemy operative also gains one of your poison tokens. Don't know what that used to be. Cool. And then we get Icon Bearer operative. Whenever this operative is within your opponent's territory, the contagious strap ploy costs you 0 CP. Nice. Presumably it used to be everywhere, now it's opponent's territory. Scout Squad. Faction rules, forward scouting, 6 forward scouting options. This is a buff, they used to only be able to take 5, and they've had a new scouting option. Once per battle, strategic gambit, select 1 friendly operative until the end of that operative's next activation, add 1 to its APL stat. So you're always taking that, because honestly, being able to have 2 APL 3 models on the board is good. Nice. Cool. Yeah, you will just always take that. Nice. So that, okay. They've just given it to you in this way instead of saying, hey, this can just be like a faction rule. But it is a faction rule, because that's scouting, but you will always take it. Cool. We then get faction equipment targeting oculars up to twice per turning point. Presumably this used to be once per turning point. Lethal 5 and saturate. Okay, you get lethal 5 as well as saturate, and you can do it twice per turn. Nice. Those are small buffs. I know that it's generally the opinion of the internet, and therefore factual, that scouts are not doing well at all. I don't think they're doing that badly. So these are small buffs that are going to help them. Good. Tempestus Aquilons. 2 changes. until the ready step of the next turning point. What? Drop and secure until the ready step of the next turning point when determining control of that marker. So presumably what this was it stopped, it would have said for this turning point, now until the ready step of the next turning point, so presumably there would be an interaction where, you know, you need to control a thing, or your attack ops reference the start of the turn, etc, etc. Cool. Firefight Ploy's Hot Drop. Use this Firefight Ploy after rolling your attack dice for a friendly Tempestus Aquilon operative that either landed or dropped from vantage terrain at least. Oh. Okay. Cool. So I believe this used to be just you had to land that turn to do it. Now it's saying you could jump off vantage and it gives you this. That's really cool, actually. I like that. For sure, the Tempestus Aquilons lose all of their fun things after they've dropped. So so you have fun things turn 1 and 2. And of course, turn 1 doesn't matter on Vulcus, literally at all. So to see now that you can do this again, so turn 2, if possible, you drop onto the vantage, you could still get more stuff happening turn 3. It's nice. It's a small change. It's only to Hot Drop, not to anything else, but a nice thing. Okay, Vespid. Let's be clear, Vespid suck. Let's see what they've changed. Let's see how they've addressed it. In the ready step of each strat phase, remove all communion points from the previous turning point, then you gain D3 communion points. So this is good. This stops you from having a bad roll. However, I will say, communion points are not doing what they're supposed to do. They really, really are not limiting you at all. However, this is a... I know I say however too much, sorry. This is good because there could be a turn, if you roll 1 communion point and you get 1 for the drone in turn 2, that genuinely does hurt the team. This is, in my mind, only stopping a feels bad turn 2, which is good. You should stop that, good. Because having your team rely on a single dice roll is dumb. And we don't have to spend a communion point when operating Hatch now, which is good. Obviously. Because again, if you've got that turn 2, might as well just concede. You can't do anything. And then we get Oversight Drone. So this is the guy that we're all saying, it would we need this guy to be a comms, kind of. Like, we need something. Instead, you get Lethal 5. I will say, actually, Lethal 5 is really good on Vespids. So I'm not going to poo-poo that. I think that's actually a very good change. Your guns are kind of built around rolling 6s. You know what? It's much easier to roll 5s. So that is good. And they won't be able to retain. So yeah, I like that. I like that. It is going to make getting those shots off with your Oversight Drone much more impactful. I like it. Void Dancers, it doesn't seem to say anywhere here just removed from the game, so I assume they're still broken. Let's have a read. Shadow Seer Operative, Mirror of Minds action, valid target and within 8 of this operative. So obviously this used to just be valid target, so it was a full range weapon, now it's a pistol, basically. There you go. I assume it's still the same thing where you both roll 6 dice and every match is a damage. This makes sense. Cool. Warpcoven. The most changes at the end here. Closing in on an hour. Let's do it. Okay. Faction rules Boons of Tzeentch Astral Bombardment. Oh, sorry. Also keep in mind, I don't know any of Warpcoven's rules. I've refused to learn them. Cringe. Because they're a cringe team. Okay. If you select Firestorm or Mindburn, Sorcerer of Warpfire, whenever that operative performs the shoot action, select the Seek Light or Devastating 1 weapon rule for that weapon to have until the end of that action. It cannot have both. Presumably, you used to get both Seek Light and Devastating 1. Now you've got to pick one. Fine. Cool. This will obviously just be decided by, do you need Seek Light to get the shot? If yes, you get it. If no, you go Dev 1. Cool. Fine. It's a very small nerf. Note that for the Sorcerer of Temperion's Temporal Flux action, this boon only affects the distance in the first effect of that rule. Temporal Flux. Oh, so this is yeah. The boon only affects distance in the first effect of that rule. So this is actually a thing that allowed the big game-winning move at Worlds to now no longer have worked, I believe. So cool. And it's only allowing you to place your marker further. It's not allowing you to move further and recall further. Good, I like it. Ethereal warding. Whenever an operative is shooting a friendly Warpcoven operative, weapons with the piercing 1 weapon rule have the piercing crits weapon rule instead. Again, same changes they did with Legionary. I think that's much more reasonable. I'm cool with it. And also keeping in mind that we'll get to it in a sec, but they have lowered the save stat of rubrics, which, so good. Good. 2 good changes. We will now actually possibly be able to hurt them. Firefight Ploys, Psychic Cabal. You cannot select a psychic ranged weapon that is being used by that other friendly operative during this turning point, and that other friendly operative cannot use the selected weapon during this turning point. So, cool. This was allowing you to get just outrageous things. So basically, I can't remember what it's called, but there is just one psychic power. This is just the best one that you should always use if you can. So the fact that you were able to use a psychic power twice a turn was bad. There you go. I assume, yes, here, later on in this, we're also going to see it say you can't do that when counteracting, because again, it does seem that when you are able to use the best thing twice a turn instead of once a turn, it breaks the game. Let's see. Sorcerer of Destiny Operative, Doombolt weapon, damage stat changed to 4-2. I don't know what it was before. I would guess 4-3 Dev 3? Dev 2? Don't know. So probably Dev 2, right? So damage stat, so instead of doing whatever, 4-4, so it's 4-6, it's now 4-4. Nice. Sorcerer of Warpfire Operative, Mind Burn. Psychically, 5 saturate, Seek Light, Mind Burn. This used to be Seek. Seek is stupid. We probably shouldn't have Seek in the game. Nice. Sorcerer of Warpfire Operative, a light action. Operative weapons have the Ceaseless weapon rule. Thank you. So this used to be you get the Rending weapon rule. Rending is so good. I genuinely don't think any elite team should ever get access to Rending because they're already so good, they don't ever need Rending. You could put Rending on weaker teams because they need that just dice rolling buff. But the effect they get from Rending is not anywhere near as strong as the effect an elite team gets from Rending. Because elites, Ceaseless is basically as good as Rending for them, right? Like, it's really good. Okay. Sorcerer of Temperian Operative, Reconstruction Ritual Aura. This is your heal. Or a friendly operative has already performed this action during this turning point. Can't heal twice. Good. Rubrics. Save stat changed to 3 up. Nice. Whenever an attack dice inflicts normal damage of 3 or more on your Zangors, presumably because the fact they've changed normal dice, so it used to be any dice, so you could block crits or lower crits, which you don't want to generally be able to do in kill teams. That's good. Relic Hunters, don't know what that is. It's only once per battle instead of once per turn. Good. Faction Equipment, Arcane Robes. Once per turning point, whenever an attack dice would inflict critical damage on... Oh man, once per turning point. What did that used to be? Was that every time? Jesus. On a friendly Warpcoven Sorcerer Operative, you can use this rule. If you do, that attack dice inflicts normal damage instead. Okay. So I don't know what that used to be. I don't know if that was once per game. And now they've changed it to once per turn. But it's only one sorcerer, whereas before it was... I don't know. Don't know what that used to be. Cool. Finally, final thing. An hour in. Sorcerer Scrolls. Once per battle, when a friendly Warpcoven Sorcerer Operative is activated or counteracted, you can select a different Boon of Tzeentch for it to have until the end of the battle. It loses any it previously had. It cannot be the same Boon of Tzeentch any other friendly operative has. Okay, so presumably this now means that if a sorcerer has died, you can get its thing back. Nice. Oh, that was time and a half, chaps. We're not quite at an hour, so I'm gonna keep it going for like a minute. What do we think? So, are we happy with those changes? I think. Again, so I'm going to talk about. So for me, no, I'm not a top tier player, so I can't talk to what the game truly needed at that level. Talking for me, I think this was an emergency balance patch that only just managed to rein in the absolute S tier. However, I suspect the S tier are still the S tier. There you go. Or to phrase it a different way, the A tier is now equal to the S tier for some of them. And so really, this is, yeah, emergency balance patch. They didn't buff the weakest guys as much as they needed to. I don't think anything changes for them. I understand that they're doing small changes. That's good. They're not trying to kind of wreck anything. But yeah, I don't know. All a little bit pillow-fisted here, I feel. And it doesn't change the only thing that I can really talk about, which is the beginner experience and the slightly more casual experience. I don't think any of this changes huge amounts there. I think that if you have a good player in your meta who plays Warpcoven and they were dominating you, they're still going to dominate you. So no real change. And then from my perspective, for the beginner players, I think that all elite teams are too strong in the hands of beginners, playing into beginners, to clarify. And so you are still going to get a lot of people on Reddit, Facebook saying, hey guys, I play Team X, who is not an elite team, and my opponent picked up Team Y, which is an elite team. I literally cannot beat them. What do I do? We're still going to get that ruling everywhere. I think that's probably a bigger issue, because you know what? At the top tier, those guys are committed. They're going to play the game no matter what you do to it, clearly. We want to help bring new players in. We want to make sure that those beginning games that they get, they do have a chance to win. We don't need to, we shouldn't have to tell people, oh yeah, elites are really strong. You need to be better at the game. So play 20 more games and then you'll probably be able to go like, they only win 60% of the time instead of 90% of the time. That's not a good answer. I think they do need to address that balance. However, quite how you address that beginner balance but still keep them competitive along with everything else, really quite challenging. I think that all elite teams need just a little pulling back. I don't know how. There you go. I would have liked to have seen perhaps an additional core change to how Counteract works. I think that's where they need to go next, just to rein the elites in. And then that will have the advantage of, in the future, when we get an elite team, which will not have these nerfs and will still be too strong, they will be playing on the new Counteract action, and therefore will have already taken their nerf. Cool. If we view GW thinks Angels of Death are a good team, and that's how they want the game balanced, around Angels of Death being ever so slightly too strong, so that beginners, who are mainly going to be playing elites, and therefore Angels of Death, are a little bit better than other people, which is good. Like, that's a good way round to have that balance. You don't want the elite teams to be worse. They should be a bit better. If you just rein in Counteract just a smidge, then logically all the other elite teams that they release will already have that slight nerf now built in and in line, because of course whatever the new elite teams are will have been balanced with the rest of the game in line with other elite teams. There you go. All right, well, all in all, good changes. Hopefully the top of the meta is happy with this. Presumably, if you're of a certain skill level, you are now able to beat Warpcoven and Legionary, and for sure, not being able to do just the terrible Counteract guard stuff is good. And a little bit less healing across the elite teams is also obviously absolutely mandatory, so that's good to see. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. Stay cool and live